Turn heads and bring the hype with a custom hype chain from Lotwin. Perfect for youth sports, fantasy football, or just flexing your pride. Go to Lotwin.com, use the promo code TCCPOD for 10% off your order. That's Lotwin.com, promo code TCCPOD for 10% off. Get your custom hype chain and get hype with Lotwin. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for November 14th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a feel-good Friday edition of the podcast. We got a huge Philly sports weekend coming up, but let's get into today's podcast. And first, as always, we'll start with the Birds. Pretty healthy heading into this game against the Lions on Sunday night. Lane Johnson was a full participant in practice, which should help the run game immensely. That was kind of the turning point in that game on Monday night, was when Lane went out and they weren't able to run the six offensive linemen with our boy Fred Johnson. But with Lane back, that should help. And then Willie Lampkin was a full participant in practice. Hopefully, would love to see him play. He was the guy they picked up from the Rams practice squad, or I guess injured reserve during training camp. And really, the Rams were high on him. This dude has a ton of talent, so he should be able to provide some depth for that line. Cam Jurgens was a limited participant. If I had to guess, I bet he'd be trending toward playing. But they will be pretty healthy, and they're going to need everybody, as this is going to be a tough game against the Lions. Now, if you want more breakdown on the Lions game, the Brotherly Birds breakdown dropped last night. Kyle and I, it was actually a good one. We had a good time recapping the Packers game, talking all things A.J. Brown and the news of the week, as well as getting you ready for this Lions game. That is available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. But one of the things I talked about, and we both talked about, was just how this team, a lot of times when there is some adversity or something that happens, outside noise, whatever you want to call it, tends to galvanize them. And hoping that is the case this week, because I think you're going to get the best Detroit version of the Detroit Lions on Sunday, because they still feel some type of way about the way the season played out last year. Didn't get to see the Lions-Eagles NFC Championship game, which we all really thought was going to happen. I'm looking forward to this game. It's a huge game. Just in general, Sunday Night Football, two of the best teams in the NFC. From an Eagles perspective, from a standings and tie-breaking perspective, it's huge. For the Lions as well. I mean, I think the Eagles have a one-game lead right now on the Lions. So, and it's just one of those games. Sunday night, looking forward to it. But for more on this game, go to the Brotherly Birds breakdown, available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And the other thing was, going back to the AJ comments, I just heard this morning John Clark's report on Channel 10. He basically said that Saquon, and I didn't hear these, but Saquon and Jordan Mailata both echoed what AJ said. So for everybody out there who's saying he's airing, I heard this on the radio last night, picking up the kids from basketball, airing the dirty laundry of the team. I don't think he's airing any dirty laundry. He's basically saying what we're all seeing, and who better? And truthfully, it sort of reinforces what we've been seeing. The fact is, he's saying the offense needs to be better. Guess what? It does. Does he want to be more involved? Yes. Is the offense better when he's more involved? Yes. Saquon Barkley saying the offense needs to be better. Jordan Mailata is saying the offense needs to be better. I mean, you'll never hear Nick Sirianni say it, but if you get him behind closed doors and give him a couple drinks, I guarantee you he's going to say it. Vic Fangio will say it. So I don't know where the dirty laundry's coming out there. He's saying the offense needs to be better. It does. anybody, and I'm not even trying to steal his line, but if you have two eyes, you can see the offense needs to be better. So I'm not sure where the airing of the dirty laundry came in. It's not like he's given details of him and Jalen's relationship, which I'm sure the same people that are saying the airing of the dirty laundries would love for him to be able to start spitting this, that, and the other. He's saying it was strictly football. He's not happy. He's a human being. The offense has not been consistent. It has showed glimpses of being outstanding, but then at the same time, it sucked. So I don't know. I mean, and if I'm missing something, hook me up. Let me know. I don't know where this is airing of the business and the dirty laundry as some higher profile. I won't even say higher profile people are saying. I don't get it. It's strictly about football. And again, I've said this all season. The way AJ has been handling this, for the most part, has not been good. It's not been professional. It's not been mature. But the fact of the matter is, he's evolved. I thought the way he handled this, and truthfully, I will go to my grave. I said it yesterday. Didn't even realize it until it came up with Kyle on the Brotherly Birds breakdown. My job's a shit show. Absolute shit show. Every day, it's a shit show. And should he have said it? I mean, I don't know. Maybe he didn't know that dude had that Jangy Rondo or whatever his name is, had that much of a following that was going to get out. But, I mean, I say it to coworkers all the time. So, again, it's an honest opinion. It is the correct opinion. The offense is a shit show right now. So, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on that. Maybe there's something I'm missing as far as the dirty laundry part. But 267-495-8531, that's the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get that. Anything else Phillies sports related off of your chest. But a huge game this Sunday night for the Eagles. Sixers will be out without Joel Embiid, who's missing his third straight game with that right knee soreness. I guess the good news is, there, as we said yesterday, there is no structural damage, but they are out in Detroit for a game against the Pistons in the NBA Cup group play stage. They'll also be without Jarrett McCain, who has been sent to Delaware to sort of do, I think they called it a basketball rehab, which I think is good. I mean, the way this rotation is, I think he needs to get his sea legs under him, get more comfortable with the thumb and the knee, because I think lost in all this is, yes, he sprained his thumb and had to have the surgery, but he was coming back from the knee injury. So I think sending him down to the G League for a little bit, I don't look at it as any different than a major leaguer going down to AAA or AA to get a couple rehab starts in. So I like this. Get some minutes, get your conditioning and your legs under you, get your shot right. So kudos to the Sixers for recognizing that, and honestly, kudos to the NBA for having the G League and the ability to do that. So no Jarrett McCain, no Joe tonight as the Sixers travel to Detroit to take on the Pistons. Flyers are in action tonight out in St. Louis, looking to end their 2-game losing streak. But, I mean, they're getting points. So get the points. Wins are nice, but the points at the end of the day in the NHL for standings, that's what matters. And then tomorrow night, they're in Dallas. So a little quick 2-game road trip for the Flyers this weekend. My Temple Owls are off this weekend as they still look for that elusive 6th win and to become bowl eligible for this season. Then Villanova, number 7 in the FCS coaches poll, will be at home against Stony Brook this Saturday. So big day for the Nova Wildcats. But yesterday's trivia question, we did our Randall Cunningham Throwback Thursday. Randall is number 5 on the all-time quarterback rushing list. I asked who is number 1 on that list, and that would be Lamar Jackson followed by Mike Vick, followed by Cam Newton, followed by Russell Wilson. Russ was the one that everybody got tripped up on. And for a lot of people mentioned Steve Young. Steve Young is, in fact, number 7 on that list. But thanks to everybody who came out and participated in the Discord channel and the social media for that. It was actually a good discussion, lively, fun. So get involved, give your guess for today's trivia question coming up later in the show. Speaking of the social, be sure to follow me on social media at Philly Jimbo on all platforms. Continue to spread the word. Subscribe, like, review, comment, all that other good stuff. Been having some good comments and back and forth specifically on my TikTok channel. So come on over and let's have some fun on TikTok. And then, of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. That is where you get up to date on this as well as the Brotherly Birds breakdown. And then don't forget, fundraiser kicks off on Monday, the 3rd annual food and gift drive benefiting the Maddie N. Dixon Community Cupboard, looking to raise over $1,000 this year and blow away what we did. Details coming on Monday. And then, of course, in a couple weeks, we'll start our reverse advent calendar. And then Monday, quick programming note, we're going to probably not. Never mind. I was going to say it might be later since it's a late Eagles game, but I have to get up with the kids anyway, so never mind. But we will start our what we're thankful for in Philly sports series going through Thanksgiving. So always fun, always looking forward to that to see what we're thankful for. This day in Philly sports history is proud to be a part of the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network, a growing community of diehard fans turning their sports passion into something special. Whether you're looking for unique shows, want to launch your own podcast but don't have the time, or need production services, the ClashingConferences.com has everything you need. Explore fan-driven content, become a member, or tap into their media services to level up your brand. That's ClashingConferences.com, where fans' voices get heard. All right, November 14th, and heavy Eagles Day today. But first, let's go back to 1993. And on this day in 1993, the Eagles lose to the Dolphins 19-14 at the Vet. Ken O'Brien filling in for an injured Randall Cunningham threw 2 touchdown passes, both to Calvin Williams, but it wasn't enough as the Eagles suffered their 5th straight loss to the Dolphins. We saw a lot in this game. Future Eagles star Troy Vincent recovered a Ken O'Brien fumble, or I think it was either Ken O'Brien or Vaughn Hepburn. And then after Dan Marino was injured in this game, Scott Mitchell got injured in this game, and we saw the appearance for the first time in Philadelphia of one Mr. Doug Peterson, who was in his 2nd year in the league at the time. Dougie P came in and fumbled the ball, kind of a precursor of what his NFL career would be. However, Dougie P, we love you. You took us and won the Super Bowl with us. But what is important about this game is the 64,000 plus fans in attendance at the Vet witness history as the win for the Dolphins was head coach Don Shula's 325th in NFL in his career, making him the winningest coach in NFL history, passing George Halas for the most coaching wins all time. I'll get it out today. It's a feel-good Friday. But on this day in 1993, Eagles lose to the Dolphins 19-14. Calvin Williams with 2 touchdown passes from Ken O'Brien, but Don Shula setting the NFL record for most wins by a head coach. And that does lead us right into today's trivia question. Since it's going over the weekend, going to be multiple answers for this. But Don Shula still holds the record for most wins in NFL history by a head coach. George Halas is still second. Rounding out the top 5, who are the next 3 in line for most wins in all coaching of all time? Hit me up on the Discord channel. First link in the description. The Back to the Future voice and text line, 267-495-8531. Let me know who are number 3 through 5 on the NFL's all-time coaching list. All right, a little bit of hoops action before we get back to basketball. On this day in 1984, Sixers lose to the Pistons 137-133 in overtime down at the Spectrum. Dr. J dropped 31 points, but the story was Moses Malone, who had 51 points and 17 rebounds. The only time in his Sixers career that he scored 50 points. He only did it 4 times in his career. This was the only time Moses scored 50 points as a Sixer. Did so on 18 for 32 shooting and 15 for 18 from the free throw line. All right, we mentioned Dougie P. Well, on this day, 1999, Dougie P was benched as Eagles quarterback in favor of rookie Donovan McNabb as the Eagles beat Washington at the Vet 35-28. Donovan was okay in his first start. I mean, he got the win, made some plays, but his stat line was nothing spectacular. 8 for 21, 60 yards, 9 rushes for another 49 yards. He did run in a 2-point conversion, did pass a 2-point conversion, but the future was now. Despite all of what Andy Reid said about Donovan not being ready to start, he pulled the plug on the Doug Peterson experience, and the rest of the time it was all Donovan. Although I think he got hurt later in that year, so we did see the resurgence of Dougie P. But Deuce Staley helped carry the load, 122 rushing yards and a touchdown. Of course, when special teams kicks in, it's always good. Allen Rossum had an 89-yard kickoff return, but defensively they were outstanding, forcing 6 turnovers and 4 sacks. But as I said, the future was now. On this day in 1999, Donovan McNabb makes his first NFL start. Then we're going to fast forward to 2021. The Eagles traveled to Denver to beat the Broncos 30-13. This was just weeks after Nick Sirianni's flower with the roots speech. And just maybe we started to see some of the blossoms start to bud on the plant that was the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts threw for 178 yards, 2 touchdowns, both to Devontae Smith. Added 55 rushing yards, but the big play was Darius Slay with an 83-yard fumble return for a touchdown, kind of sealed it for the Eagles. Jordan Howard and Boston Scott, remember Jordan Howard? Jordan Howard and Boston Scott both had over 80 yards rushing, but this was the start of a stretch for the Eagles where they won 6 of 8 down the stretch to get into playoff contention and ultimately get into the wild card. But like I said, maybe we're seeing the fruits, so to speak, of Nick Sirianni's labor, watering, nurturing, growing the roots of that plant. And we all know 2 Super Bowl appearances and 1 championship later, Nick knew what he was talking about. But on this day, Eagles beat the Broncos 30-13 out in Denver. And we're not going to go far for this next one. We're just going to go back to last year. And on this day, back in 2024, coming off a big game with the Cowboys the previous Sunday, the Eagles welcomed the Commanders to Lincoln Financial Field on Thursday Night Football in a much-anticipated matchup for NFC East supremacy. This is when the Commanders were starting to sniff themselves a little bit, thought they could hang with the big dogs, but unfortunately Jaden Daniels was banged up. But the defense did hold Washington to 264 total yards, 3 sacks, and an interception by Reed Blankenship. But it was the Saquon Barkley show, as it was most games last year. He ran for 146 yards, 2 touchdowns, added 52 receiving yards. Jalen, 221 yards, as the Eagles beat the Commanders 26-18 to move to 8-2, winning their 6th game in a row last year. Coincidentally, in this game, Saquon Barkley went over 1,000 yards for the season. But the not ready for prime time Washington Commanders lose to the Eagles 26-18 on this day last year.
It's time for Fridays with AI, where we ask AI to rewrite Philly sports history. Every Friday, only on This Day in Philly Sports History.
That's right, it is Friday. It's time for Fridays with AI, brought to you as always by Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. You got all kinds of good Sixers stuff. I'm looking forward. My Play the Song hoodie should be coming today. I'll show that off on Monday. Of course, get ready for the Eagles stretch run. They got you covered. So go to Philly Goat. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. And if you know anything about me, you should have known this one was coming. We talked about this on Wednesday. But on Tuesday night during the broadcast, Reggie Miller told the story of how the Sixers said, we are going to draft you at 16. And then the Pacers swooped in at number 11 to take him. So, of course, What if the Pacers didn't take Reggie Miller at the 11th pick in the 1987 draft and the Sixers got him at 16? I asked AI to create an alternate reality where the Sixers were able to team up Reggie Miller with Charles Barkley. And of course, in true Philly fan fashion, AI said the Sixers fans would have booed. They would not have been happy with this, partly because they were still smarting over the loss of Moses Malone and the number 1 pick the previous offseason on the same day. But eventually Reggie would win them over. And then in that stretch between 1987 and 1993, sort of the Pistons bad boy era leading into, the Jordan era, the Sixers would have been a damn good team. AI says Reggie Miller's shooting would open things up for Barkley, which would make Barkley a more dominant player. And because of his great rebounding skill, it would open up a lot more opportunities and space for Reggie, specifically in transition, to hit threes. Barkley, and I mean, I can picture this in my head. And if you're an old school Sixers fan like me, I'm sure you can too. Charles Barkley pulling down the rebound, taking a couple dribbles in midcourt, passing it to the corner for Reggie Miller, who drains a three. Come on now. That would have been phenomenal. But even like down low, getting Barkley, who, and again, you can picture this with his backing him down, using his big body, dribble down, almost get the double team, boom, kick it out to Reggie for a three. Would have been a fun team to have the two of them. But where would they have stood in the Eastern Conference supremacy? Would have been among the elite teams. I think they would have been the kind of like the Pacers were for the longest time, and then you sort of had the Cavaliers in there, and then the Knicks. But they would have been the clear number 2 in the East behind the Bulls. Would have led to a couple epic Eastern Conference Finals against the Bulls. Unfortunately, the Bulls were the Bulls. AI doesn't see anybody beating the Bulls during that, especially the first run with Michael Jordan. But the good thing is Charles Barkley does not get traded in 1993, and they're able to take advantage of Michael Jordan's retirement, the 94-95 window, and go to back-to-back finals. Unfortunately, they would not be able to beat the Rockets. They said that those teams would have been 2 epic NBA finals, but would not have beaten the Houston Rockets despite. So they lose back-to-back NBA finals. And then eventually Charles Barkley retires, doesn't have the kind of end of his career where he's bouncing around to the Rockets and things like that. But late in Reggie Miller's career, he becomes a veteran's presence. Somehow, the AI still predicts that the Sixers would have had an off season at the end of the Barkley era. This is where it gets a little dicey for me. But let's say, for the sake of argument, AI and Reggie Miller were on the same team. AI likes the prospect of Reggie Miller being that veteran presence for Allen Iverson. They still make that finals run in 2001. Force another extra game against the Lakers. They don't think it's going to make a big difference for that. But Reggie Miller becomes a beloved Sixer. Number hangs from the rafters. But I don't know. I mean, it would have changed the complete trajectory of this entire franchise. Unfortunately, I think whenever you talk any what-ifs in Sixers history, specifically in the 90s, it's hard to imagine anybody taking down the Bulls. I mean, because you had the Cavaliers, you had the Knicks for a while, you had the Pacers. Nobody could do it. Nobody could take down the Bulls. So I would have to think, though, a Reggie Miller-Charles Barkley combination would probably come pretty close, though. But what are your thoughts on this Fridays with AI? Reggie Miller brought it up. I figured I'd ask AI, and AI said it would not have brought a championship, but they would have gotten to back-to-back finals, taking advantage of Michael Jordan's retirement. But let me know your thoughts on that. 267-495-8531. That is the Back to the Future voice and text line, and that was Fridays with AI, brought to you, as always, by Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. And then finally, finishing up our newspaper headlines from random years in the past 25 years. Today, we're going to go back to 2005 and look at the Philadelphia Daily News. The Eagles were gearing up for a Monday Night Football game versus the Cowboys, essentially a do or die for the season. Eagles would lose that game 21-20. Donovan McNabb left the game with a sports hernia, essentially ending the season for the Eagles. It was the Big Five's 50th anniversary, so there's a whole special keepsake section in the Daily News going through the history of the Big Five. I actually remember that. I think I saved it. I think I have that down in my basement in a bin. Don't judge me. The Sixers had beaten the Clippers the night before, 113-108. Iverson had 28 points. Sixers were in first place at the time. Flyers were in Tampa Bay. They were 11-3-1, off to a good start. But that was pretty much it. I think the two big things in the newspaper that day were focusing on the Eagles-Cowboys and whether or not the Eagles could salvage the season. And then, of course, the start of college basketball and the 50th anniversary of the Big Five. Next week, we will start our what we're thankful for in Philly sports. Like I said, always a good time, always fun. Get a little creative and fun with that. So stay tuned for that next week. Don't forget to check out the Brotherly Birds Breakdown, available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. On this day last year, Eagles beat Washington 26-18 on Thursday Night Football, building essentially a 2.5 game lead over the Commanders. And then on this day in 2021, Eagles travel to Denver, beat the Broncos 30-13, the start of that amazing stretch run for them where they clinched the playoffs. Donovan McNabb makes his first NFL start on this day in 1999. 1984, Moses scores his only 50-point game as a member of the Sixers. And, of course, in 1993, Don Shula sets the all-time coaching record in a 1914 win against the Eagles, a game in which it featured future Eagles star Troy Vincent as well as future Super Bowl winning Eagles coach Doug Peterson. Little did we know, if you'd have told me as a kid back then in 1993, that guy that just fumbled on the goal line was going to coach the Eagles to the Super Bowl, I'd have thought you were nuts. I'd have taken it, but I still would have thought you were nuts. All right, on Monday, we'll be back with a recap of the Eagles-Lions as well as whatever else happened in Philly sports over the weekend. Whew. It's going to be a big weekend. Looking forward to it. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for November 14th, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a feel-good Friday. And until next time, go Birds.